Does Jordan's defensive player of the year, is that now tainted? Yes or no?
Can we talk?
Tainted?
Well, let's stay right there, chill. Let's talk about the fact that Scottie Pippen was spitting and everybody calling him a hater. You know what I'm saying? Those are facts. That's just like if I'm a quarterback and I throw you a good pass and the ball bounce off your hands and they catch it, that's your interception, not mine. If I'm playing defense and I tip the ball to you, why you the only one get left for that? You was just standing there.
Well, remember what the letter of the law in steals, which I can't believe this is an actual fact, but a steal by definition is if you deflect the ball from an opponent. That's a steal by the letter of the law, which is nuts to me. So if Luka pokes the ball away from SGA and Dirk Jones Jr. picks it up, Luka is awarded with a steal.
Come on, chill.
I know.
SGA.
I know that
respect his defense. Respect his defense.
That sounds ridiculous. Okay, so if Luka pokes the ball away from James Harden, because he was actually a pretty good on-ball defender in that series. That was going on. But does this affect Jordan's legacy being the defensive player of the year? Now remember, when this article came out, what was the motivation with this article? This article was about Jordan being the GOAT and the GOAT conversation. And with the GOAT conversation, right? With the GOAT conversation, everything matters. Accolades matter. Not only do accolades matter, what you did matters. Championships, all of that stuff matters. Now, the defensive player of the year back in 1988 wasn't as big a deal as it is today. It's very much like the Eastern Conference and the Western Conference Finals MVP. It ain't that big a deal now. In 20 years, it's going to be a big deal. It's going to be a huge deal in 20 years from now. So this article that was written about Jordan about his defensive player of the year, I feel like there's more questions than answers. Plus, I think it's going to open up Pandora's box, because if we can't agree on anything up here, we have to agree they was cooking the books. It wasn't just cooking the books in Chicago. They was cooking the books everywhere.
I'm not agreeing on that.
I've been told you that was
they were cooking the books.
I don't know.
There's no way that you can deny that, Ox. They were cooking the books. And they weren't just cooking the books in Chicago. They were cooking the books everywhere.
I may not be able to deny it, but I definitely can't support it. How am I supposed to know? Just because somebody said so all these years later, man, these dudes be haters 30 years later.
So a statistician who was actually doing it says that he was cooking the books. This isn't.
You know how many times people pled guilty to crimes they didn't commit?
Who's pleading guilty
crazy,
to? Who's pleading
hundreds of thousands of people do that every day.
And what is their incentive, Ox? What is their incentive to pleading to a crime that they didn't commit? What is their incentive to that?
So that depends. It depends. I don't know. It can be.
I'm going to jail for something that I didn't do. What am I getting out of this?
Well, okay. So these are different instances, but since we're talking about this,
yes,
I would say in those situations, it's mostly fear, being lied to and manipulated. Just in that sense. In this sense, it's just a good story. In this sense, it's a good story. I'm a forgotten about statistician who's seen so many great things. I want to be relevant. I want people to know that I was there. I want people to know that I was involved. You know, it's just like that movie with Tom Hanks and Jack Nicholson. You know, you can't handle the truth. You know, he sent himself to jail because he couldn't just sit there and shut up. People want to be involved so bad. You got to hate on Jordan.
Terrible example, first of all, because
that was
Jack Nicholson was actually, he was a bigger deal than he was getting treated a certain way by somebody who he was not trying to hit at. But
right.
The point that I'm trying to make is these statisticians have said, the Chicago Bulls statistician, this 19-year-old kid Zucker, who was a statistician for the Vancouver Grizzlies, was told by other statisticians, this is how we do things. Everybody's cooking the books. So it's not like he's cooking the books under his own volition and trying to be slick. No, this is how we do things around here. So with the Chicago Bulls, that's the same thing that was going on. That's where he learned it from. He learned it from these guys. So the fact that Jordan, his people were cooking the books, that ain't Jordan's fault that people were cooking the books. And on top of it, this article was objective because it didn't just talk about Jordan. It's not a coincidence, and I thought this was interesting. It's not a coincidence that both Chamberlain and Bill Russell have 26 games where they had over 40 rebounds. It's ain't a coincidence that all those games was at home. Where the books getting cooked the most? At home, of course. So I think this opens up Pandora's box where now we got to look at everybody.
Yes. Watch the games.
Agreed.
The box score doesn't tell the whole story.
But the difference was is if we're watching the games, I watched Jordan. Jordan wasn't a good defender. Jordan was he was an incredibly awesome defender. He was good on the weak side. He was good on the strong side. He was a great on-ball defender. He was kind of sketchy on the weak side. You can catch him with his head turned. He wasn't that great. But on ball, he was a fantastic defender. He was great on the strong side. He was a great shot blocker. We watched that. But now if you're looking at the stats, and I think that I said this, Swiper, you're a reporter for the Denver Gazette, and it's 1988. The internet's not going on. Not only is the internet not going on, you don't have access to NBA TV. You don't have access to ESPN. You don't have access to Fox Sports. You don't have access to League Pass. All you have access to is the newspaper. And when you open up the newspaper and you're a voter for the Defensive Player of the Year or the MVP, and you open up the newspaper and you saw, damn, Jordan had 7 steals last night. That's all you have to go off of, because you can't watch 60 Bulls games. You know why? Because you're too busy watching the Denver Nuggets. That's who you wrapped up in.
Wait, so can I ask real quick, Ox, so you genuinely believe even if a statistician from that time comes out and say, hey, I cooked the books, I fudged some stats, if other statisticians or people around that time are coming out saying, yeah, at that time we did, indulge in stats. We did skim some stats, skew some stats, whatever. You are honestly going to sit there and say, nah, I don't trust them. They're lying. I don't believe this.
This is my thing, Damo. I typically don't believe people anyway. When they say stuff, I'll be like, yeah, sure. You know what I'm saying? But in times like this, if you're saying that you're a criminal, then that's even less I'm going to believe you. If you're a criminal and you're doing the wrong thing, why would I believe you? You know what I'm saying? You're saying, oh, well, you're a bad person. I don't believe you. So
okay. So what if you watch the game? What if you watch the game yourself and you saw
that means you're a liar. That means you're a liar.
Well, why would someone not admit? So you're saying they would impugn their reputation by admitting they were making clerical changes on purpose?
Your reputation ain't shit already. Reputation ain't shit already. If you know what I'm saying. If you're out here doing bad things, I just don't believe anything you said about it.
Well, we don't know that. First of all, you don't know that I'm doing that, Ox. You don't know I'm cooking the books. So how you know about so how can you stake my reputation on that? You don't know that I'm doing that.
Because you just told me. So
that's the only reason why you know that.
So you do believe them then?
Well, I don't know what to believe anymore, Swiper, is what I'm saying.
I don't know if that's
it's a big mess. It's a big mess. Like, so why would you be doing this back in the day? And if you were doing it, like, first of all, you're a bad person if you were doing it. And if you were why would you come out and say this shit in 2024? Like, why? What's the point? There's more to it. There's
so just keep it to yourself type thing.
Well, don't do it. First of all.
Even if everybody was doing it, like you walk in the door.
Ideal world, yeah, no one's doing it.
Of course, you don't want to do that. But to your point, Mars, the question that you just ask that question again, sir.
Well, what if you watched it yourself and you saw the discrepancies? Like you saw a game that said it doesn't have to be Jordan. You saw Sidney Moncrief had 8 steals. You watched the game, he had 3, and then
that's egregious. And so there can be mistakes made. I've seen where people give people the wrong rebound, just move.
Oh yeah, we watched that on playback. We've seen it with Jason Tatum. Yeah, we've seen it on playback.
Accidents happen, but 3 to 8, that shouldn't even be something somebody has to admit. Like if somebody's getting 8 steals, like come on, bro. Who's doing
3 and 8? You can 3 and then 8. You were trying to catch another play and then finish the 3. I mean, it's possible.
I mean, you gotta remember games on national TV. So like, if this in the newspaper, he got 8 steals. Who's fact checking it?
Right.
And
that's the thing. They could get away with more. Now it's harder to get away with it because every game is everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
But before it made more sense.
Mind you, I don't want to say this stuff didn't happen, but I can't just say that it did. You know what I'm saying? Like people lie all the time. Even when it doesn't look good on them, people will give up their integrity. I'm talking about, we'll just hand it over. Like, here, take my integrity, but just talk about me for 3 days, please.
Why would I admit to that, though, Ox? No,
because I don't want to be. I don't
want to be relevant off a lie. Oh, listen, yo, I was stealing
cars. Wait, you chill. Chill. Are you not on social media?
People living lives.
not becoming relevant off lies. It's people that live their lives based on a lie.
But the difference,
everybody's social media is a new channel, chill. Everybody's social media is a different channel. Back in the day, if you wanted to be entertained, you'd either have to go outside and kick it with people, or you'd have to turn on a soap opera or Miami Vice. Nowadays, all I got to do is just pull this thing up and I can swipe, and that's a different channel. Every swipe. And 85% of the shit is fake and lies and filters and all of that type of stuff. So that's what I'm saying. Like any people would do anything just for you to talk about him for a couple minutes. This dude, the dude Keefe D, he's about to go to jail because he wanted to be relevant again and talk about handing guns and the murders and stuff like that. Like, who talks about this type of stuff just to be relevant? You're telling people that you did bad things just so that you can be on TV. You're telling people you did bad things so you could be in the news, in the newspaper. What happened to lasagna? You know what I'm saying? But anyway.
I do agree with what he's saying though. Like, this is just trying to grab attention. That's for sure what it is. But for what it's worth, there have been. I mean, I said it about John Stockton, but like numbers have, I think, been getting. They were juicing numbers for a lot of people. I don't think it was just Jordan. But I don't think it's a shock. But I've been trying to tell people to stop box score watching for as long as I can remember. I read an article the long time ago before this stuff came out. Because when we was having conversations and I was talking about John Stockton and how his assists weren't really assists, and like we was comparing his playmaking to other people, and then I can't remember who said it. Someone said it was harder to get assists back in John Stockton's day because you couldn't dribble, and otherwise it would take away the assist. That's just undeniably false. I can't remember where I read it. The scorekeeper, like normally it was if you dribble, it wasn't an assist. Those rules changed for John Stockton. John Stockton was routinely getting assists off dribbles. And I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm just saying those rules changed for John Stockton. And I read an article and it was about Wilt Chamberlain. And it was about who was it? Billy Cunningham and one of his other teammates, maybe Hal Greer, maybe someone else. They said Wilt Chamberlain told them, I'm only passing to you guys because every time I pass to Chet Walker, he dribbles and I don't get my assists. That's what they said Wilt said to him. So back then, they seemed to acknowledge you dribble, no assist. Wilt Chamberlain was aware he weren't passing to Chet Walker, rest in peace, because Chet Walker was dribbling and Wilt wanted his assists. So that changed over time. I don't know. There was no set point in NBA history. It wasn't like 1987. We just decided you can dribble now. But that did change. And I'm not saying it changed because of John Stockton, but I'm saying it changed and John Stockton was a beneficiary of it. And there's other people who are beneficiaries of it. Mark Price was a beneficiary. Kevin Johnson, Penny Hardaway, they were all beneficiaries of it. But that's why I say like assists is such a subjective stat that I think it's undeniable to say that those stats get juiced. I think today those stats get juiced. You can look at players and go look at their assists and you see players like, how the hell is that an assist?
Even if it's on even if it's on
and
that's because it's such a subjective stat. Like what defines an assist is a pass that leads to a score. Well, how do we define if the pass led to the score or not? If someone takes a one dribble pull up, did that pass still lead to the score? What if they have to do a crossover to get by someone and get a layup? Is that the pass leading to a score? It becomes subjective, and you're going to give the benefit of the doubt to a superstar like Luka and Jokic. You're going to get assists.
Don't you get two dribbles?
I thought
there's no set rule. There's no set rule.
I
it's not two dribbles, one dribble. It's just
there's got to be a set rule.
We talked about today.
You can look it up in the NBA.
It's two dribbles.
Look it up.
That's what I thought. That's what
in the NBA. Look up. Maybe I'm wrong. In the NBA, look up.
It's definitely two dribbles.
Because I've seen assists where it's more than two dribbles.
They might do that. It might be some stat keepers that will give it to somebody after three dribbles. Might be some stat keepers that do bad things or wrong things, whatever. But it's definitely two dribbles though.
It says that in the NBA rulebook, or you're just that's how you.
No, that's a whip. Chill. It's two dribbles, right?
I'm actually to be honest with you, I'm getting to the
and
bottom
this is what it says: now. NBA video rulebook, word for word. I'm gonna read it. An assist is credited to the player tossing the last pass leading directly to a made field goal, but only if the player scoring the goal demonstrates an immediate reaction towards the basket after receiving the pass. Note also that an inbound pass can be credited as an assist if it leads directly to a field goal. Nothing about dribbles. It's entirely up to the scorekeeper's It's entirely up to the scorekeeper's discretion. Which is why I say today I still think it happens with assists. You can go watch a random player's assist, like any superstar, Halliburton, Luka, Trae Young. You're going to see some assists that are sketchy. And I'm not saying none of their assists don't
Right.
count. I'm just saying this is why you shouldn't box score watch. 10 assists doesn't mean, oh, you were the best playmaking ever. Because I've seen some assists. It's like, you ain't really do much. That's what
assist is a hard stat though. A hard stat either way. Either way it goes, whether negatively or positively. Going off of assist stats is real shaky. And also real shaky to me because it's so much me depending on my teammate. That's like hard, like a rebound. That's my board. A point. That's my bucket. A block, like I block that. You know what I'm saying?
The rebounds be kind of sketchy sometimes too. and I'll say why.
It should be. I'm just saying it should be like those are definite. Those are definite things that happen. Like if I grab the ball, now you might give it to somebody else. It might be messed up.
It should be easy to define. It should be objective.
That's what I'm saying. Those type of things like rebounds, points, blocks.
Right.
Those should be. Those should be pretty. Well, if it's two people, those ones can be hard because some two people get ahead of the ball. But
that's the other thing too, Ox. That and they also, when I read this article, it was really interesting that we talk about cooking the books. Where if Ox, I shoot the ball and you in front of me and the ball falls short, they would assume that you blocked it, and they charge. They
only if you got a good enough reputation.
Right.
It depends on.
Shit, when I found out in high school. I found out in high school, like later into my senior year, that they would give me because I used to tip, like if I'm down there, it's me and two guys. I used to tip the ball away from them and go get it over here.
Right.
I found out that they was giving me a rebound for tips. Oh shit!
So that's two. So that's
I
two
started
rebounds.
playing with the ball.
The Malone tactic.
Right.
Oh yeah, I had 24 rebounds against Grant. Right.
Mars, you just brought up something interesting.
You had 24 tips.
Ron, I played 3 quarters. I had 24 boards.
Mars, you just brought up something interesting when you talked about Chet, about Chamberlain not passing the ball to Chet because if you dribble the ball, that's not an assist on my part. Jordan, one of the main reasons why this whole thing came up was because in '87, when he didn't make the All-League defensive team, after having the season that he had, he complained about it. And he complained about not making the All-League defensive team. And it's coincidentally the next year, not only does he make first team all defense, he's the defensive player of the year, which compounds the idea that, these guys care about these awards, man. These guys care about being the defensive player of the year. These guys care about being the league MVP.
Yeah,
these guys care about all of this stuff. There's no way that these guys and I know Mars, I know you one of them dudes that don't care about this stuff. These dudes care about this stuff more than anything because it stakes their reputation on it.
I mean, for sure. I mean, Jordan's reputation changed dramatically after the defensive player. I remember me and Domo were arguing adamantly that he was an overrated defender. And we got killed for it. And I still believe he is overrated as a defender. I still think he's a great defender, but I think he's overrated. I've been adamant before this stats stuff and thing came out. I don't think he was the defensive player of the year. I don't think he deserved it. I think Hakeem was the best defender in the league, but they gave it to him. And I understand he has a defensive player of the year. But this comes from me watching. I don't care too much about steals and blocks. And a lot of steals come from your gambling anyway. If you gamble, there's no stat for how many times you mess it up. So the amount of times you give up an open jumper versus the amount of times you get a steal, what's the trade-off? I don't know. So that's why I think you have to watch it to really decide. But with Jordan, I mean, the only reason this is gaining traction, and I think it's kind of disappointing, is because they're using it to make the GOAT case for LeBron.
Sure.
I think this is a very serious issue that should be spoken about in terms of how do we look at players' box scores from before the play-by-play era, or even today? How do we digest this? How do we know which stats are real and which stats aren't? That should be the conversation we're having. But instead, it's see, MJ's a fraud. LeBron's the GOAT. LeBron never had to do that. That's what the conversation has devolved into. When I think the bigger story is the fact that it's very possible that a lot of players who have played in the past and some playing today, their numbers aren't aligned with what they're producing. And a lot of people's opinions on players are based on this box score. So if the box score isn't trustworthy, a lot of people's opinions on players are skewed. So that should be addressed by whether it's the NBA. They need to have set definitions of what constitutes a thing. An assist, a rebound, block, they all need to be heavily defined. An assist is only an assist if it's within one dribble or less, for example. A rebound is only a rebound if you come down with the ball with 2 hands. So, and then, for example,
we got to change that steal.
A steal is only a steal if you regain possession personally. I don't know.
Yes,
whatever you make it, it has to be well defined. Sure. It can't be open to subjectivity because we're running into these problems. And I think the NBA have to address that. And I don't know if they're going to, but I think they have to.
Swiper, how do they do this? The sacks in football when you get like a half a sack and stuff like that. How does that work?
It's all the same thing. It's kind of with a rebound. It's if you have any possession of the player who has the ball in any way, shape, or form, from his ankle to a leg to his arm to his foot, and you have any contribution in terms of like the force that is required to bring them down and end the possession, you then get a half sack. If
Should they do that with steals too?
The steals are
if you and the other person recovers.
Yeah, so that's the thing about steals. So I have always been of the mindset that if you disrupt the play, that's your steal. But on the other end of that, if you finish the play, the NBA has then said at times that is your steal, even though you didn't create the disruption. But that's why deflections have become so important, because deflections are probably more accurate in telling how good a player is defensively, because that is actually you ending the possession or leading to the end of the possession, and then the possession falls to someone else. So,
but Swiper, you being a football guy, I mean that would be contradictory to you being a football guy, because if Aaron Donald tips the ball at the line of scrimmage and Jalen Ramsey comes up with the pick, that's his interception, even though Aaron Donald was the one who started.
That counts though. You get that on your stat sheet, though.
Of course, as a deflection, 100%. As a deflection, I think we need to define more what exactly. Well, I think it's defined in football what an interception is and what a deflection is. I think it's different in pro basketball and basketball in general, what a steal is and what a deflection is. The problem that I'm having here is Jordan in 1988. Just so you guys know. When I'm around, I'm listening to them tell me that Jordan's defensive player of the year at that time was predicated on him being the first guy to have 200 steals and 100 blocks in the season and win defensive player of the year. It's essentially saying the same thing about what Russ did, because Jordan actually had 200 steals and 100 blocks 3 straight years. So if that's the case, he should have been the defensive player of the year in 87, in 88, and in 89, just like Russ when he won the league MVP. In 17, I was predicated on him being having a triple-double, only except he went on to do it 3 more times. So it gets tricky when you're doing stuff like that.
I'll tell you what they need to do. No, go ahead, Damo. Go ahead, Damo.
I was going to say, with that, chill, I feel it. And at the time, maybe that was justified. But now knowing that the books are skewed, now I feel like Jordan probably had 160 steals in 87 blocks. Like now, now it gets real tricky.
It's a shame. Like you know how many games I was looking for of the 88 Bulls? There's like 6 games on YouTube. Like they're not easy to find. I mean, they're not easy to find.
If I'm not mistaken, reading this article, the way that the numbers were, you would have to take away 30% of Jordan's steals and blocks during that season. So if you take away 30% of Jordan's steals and blocks during that season, he had 259 steals that year. 30% of that is 77. So that leaves him with 181 steals. It's not 200 steals now. So he's had 131 blocks. You take away them 100, you take away 39 of those. We're down to 92. So now we don't have the 200 steals, 100 block season, which was what it was predicated on. That's what, that was the logic.
It probably applies to Jordan, but I think this obviously would apply to Stockton too, because Stockton, his steal numbers were obviously like
that's why I think this
out the wazoo. So I think some of this is just, again, I do think this is how education. I do think a lot of people are pushing back towards like advanced stats and analytics because of the math required. I think who has access to that information, who can learn that information, who can teach that information. That's why, basketball has been skewed towards a particular demographic in terms of who's covering it. There's a lot of that goes into that. But I do think analytics has a part to play in storytelling. And I think the data that you get from Synergy and other outlets like that, it does give you a fairer sample size and more, I think, consistent and honest evaluation of how good a player is or what they're contributing, because now you can track all of that stuff and you can see it for yourself. And if you do need to pull up clips, like now, now these days you can pull up bucket list and you can pull up the high-low right now. And then you can look at every single steal, every block, every rebound, attempted field goal, all that stuff. And then you can actually evaluate everything that you're seeing in front of you. And when you look at the box score and all that stuff. So I just don't think like at the time, but even before that, but this is kind of how society's always worked. We've always juiced numbers because if people have access to doing something that works in their favor or in favor of someone they know across all spectrums of society, they're always going to do that. So that's just the way it works. So it's not any different with Chicago Bulls or the Utah Jazz or anybody. Go ahead.
It's happened like that throughout away from sports. It happens like that. You listen to like a Roman account of their conquests. They'll act like they beat an army of 100,000 with 50,000. Right. And then the Carthaginians will be like, the Romans really had 175,000 to our 100,000. So our loss wasn't as bad. Like you're always going to try and skew the numbers to make either your defeat not look as bad or your victory look even better than it was. And then obviously they say, what is it? History is written by the victors.
I hate this.
Written by the victors. So like this always happens.
This lot, that super chat round right there, I hate that shit.
About DeMar DeRozan?
I hate that shit. And the reason why I hate that shit is because last I checked to the panel, you guys up here, who is according to the masses, who is the closest thing to Michael Jordan? None of you dudes would ever say DeMar DeRozan and Kobe Bryant in the same breath. Not one of you dudes. Not one of you dudes would do that. No, you wouldn't.
I will say, is DeMar DeRozan not like the CJ McCollum of Kobe's? Like, I don't know.
What?
I don't absolutely hate it. I don't like it very much, but I don't absolutely hate it. This is my thing though, y'all. This is then see now all this cookbook stuff. I don't know how much it is. 30% is crazy, chill. If that's what's going on, then that's insane. But this things like this is why I say L basketball. Okay, L basketball, y'all. Watch the games for yourself. I want to make a proposal right here to Adam Silver in the NBA. Scrap the stats altogether. No more stats. All the stats are just for your team. Let's promote team basketball. Nobody gets credit for the block. Nobody gets credit for the rebound. Nobody gets credit for the steal. Nobody gets credit for the points. There is no check the box score. Oh, you scored 50. You scored 12. You got 15 rebounds. No, the team got 123 points. Nobody scored 20. Everybody scored 123 points. This is a team game. All one squad.
It sounds like how they played in the Soviet Union.
No,
that's
not
communist.
That's
communist.
That's absolutely.
When it comes to basketball, Mars, W communism.
I'm not gonna lie. I see what you're saying with the idea. It's just team points per game, team assists per game, team rebounds, team block, team turn. I understand what you're saying. I understand what you're saying, but the casuals won't have anything to talk about.
It's not even that.
And that's the whole audience.
That works for youth sports and that works for amateur sports. Cool. When we talking about pro sports, you can't just have an all-in system because how am I get my money? To keep it honest, when they come to
the front offices know who the best players are.
But no. The front office will always think of themselves, so they will lowball these players in terms of what they should be paid. How am I going to sit there and say you're justified to get a super max when at the end of the day the numbers say we score 123 as a team and get 28 and get 48 rebounds as a team? Not my star rebounder is averaging 90% or whatever it is, crazy percentage of our rebounds. He's getting this much. Our star scorer is a top 10 scorer in the league. They're not saying that. They're going to look at it from the standpoint of how I'm going to keep as much money as possible and pay you as little as possible.
Well, there's all these rules in place.
Okay, yeah. From that, because
they got to figure out
what you're saying. Like, it's disingenuous that they would do that, but businesses they would do that. So I understand.
Yeah. Well, look. Okay. Well, look.
Look at football.
Only the owners and GM got access to the stats.
What? So then the powers that be will disseminate information to everybody else. I've seen that before.
We don't need to know.
I saw that in the 1500s, my good sir. It didn't end well. Ended in a war.
Can you imagine?
That was a bad idea.
Can you imagine Donald Sterling being the only one with the numbers? Donald Sterling telling
Donald Sterling ain't doing nothing to nobody. Man, they did that man wrong.
Okay.
Anyways, look. But look. Okay, forget about them having the stats. But look, I'm saying, let's just try it. Let's just try it for 3 seasons. No stats, just team stats. You know what I'm saying? And see how it works.
I agree with your proposal, but Domo's point about the players won't get paid what they're worth. I do agree.
Most of them getting paid. Most of them getting paid way more than they're worth anyway. So they good. They'll be all right.
No, actually, they're being paid less than their actual market value.
That's number one.
They'll figure it out.
So you care about the audience at all?
Not really.
It's the player choice way. Yeah, them boys don't get it started. The player choice way. The player choice way. Comments wish lanes into the player choice way.